Dracula's lackey Renfield has had a gutful and wants to distance himself from the murdering vampire to start a life of his own. Problem is, he's pissed off a drug cartel and has to use his superpowers to save the day. Sounds batshit crazy? Well, you can count on some full ADHD action with Renfield. Hello there, you loose units, and welcome back to another episode of Spicy Boy Reviews. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew Iles. That's right, the new comedy horror Renfield, directed by Chris McKay, who is known for directing the Lego Batman movie and the Tomorrow War, which I have done a cheeky review of. We open the film on some exposition dump, where Renfield, played by Nicholas Hoult here, tells us the origin story of how he became a slave to Count Dracula. This section of the film plays out like an old Universal Hammer horror film, showing us the origin story in full black and white and 4:3 aspect ratio. This was actually a delight to see. But don't get too comfortable with these classic soothing visuals, because it's 2023 and they've got to throw out as many edits in our face as possible. All the colours, all the sounds, all the cuts and edits, because we don't want you to think about things or have your mind wander. Renfield has been Dracula's familiar for centuries, providing him victims so Dracula can eat, and in return Dracula gives Renfield long-lasting life and superpower abilities when he eats bugs. Why bugs, you must ask? Well, as Renfield explains in the movie, it's just very confusing, but hey, it works. Hell, I'm glad that's been explained. Now, on with the plot. Renfield starts going to these group meetings of people who have been abused by being in toxic relationships. He's not going to these meetings because he knows he's in one. He's going there to hear from the victim's perspective and then going after their abusers. And then capturing them and feeding them to Dracula. See, he's watched Twilight and know Edward went after bad people so he could feed. In taking down the most current abusers, he's swept up in a drug deal gone wrong and ends up killing a hitman for a drug cartel. This is where we meet John Ralphio here. He is the son of drug lord matriarch Bella Francesca Lobo. John Ralphio gets scared during the murdering scene, so he gets in his car and just drives off and then gets into a little bit of an accident. And wouldn't you know it, it just so happens that Awkwafina is working this beat as a cop. And she's got a chip in her shoulder with the Lobo family here, because they're suspected of killing her police officer father. What a coinkydink! Sounds convoluted yet? Good, on with the plot. Anyway, Jean Ralphio gets off from the charges because he's the son of a drug lord, so, you know, money buys his way out of things. But Officer Awkwafina is on the case, and she's trying to accumulate some evidence to take down the Lobo family. But they're having none of it! They send an assassination team to where Awkwafina is so they can kill her. But wouldn't you know it? Renfield just so happens to be in the same restaurant, kicks the shit out of everyone, and saves the day. He then goes on a little journey of his own. He develops a crush for Officer Awkwafina, learns the power of self-love, gets his own apartment, and begins a new life without Dracula. But Dracula's having none of it! Of course, it ends up being a clusterfuck where Awkwafina and Renfield team up here. Not only do they have a smorgasbord of corrupt cops after them, they also have the drug lord Lobo family, as well as Dracula hot on their heels. All I've got to say is if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the movie. This film runs at a breakneck pace of an hour and a half and does not slow the fuck down. You get bright colours and edits and cuts that no shot lasts more than 30 seconds. The whole film is shot in full ADHD. We of course get the expected eye-rolling Marvel dialogue here, where no one sounds like an actual human being or what an actual person would sound like or talk about. You know, coming across as a caricature of a Gilmore Girl. I'm so fucking over this style of writing. Stop it! It also tries really hard to be funny, but I don't think anything landed. I honestly think I chuckled more in Infinity Pool. It is, however, very bloody and very gory. There's just gallons and gallons of blood in this film. Arms and legs and heads get ripped off and used as weapons to beat other people with. But the majority of all that is CGI, and it sort of takes you out when you know it's computer generated. The film is more of a superhero film than it is a comedy horror. Although I will give it props though, it looks way more like a comic book film adaptation than anything Marvel or DC have done in the last few years. And in saying that, I will say the film does look really good. It's quite lovely to look at. We get some excellent DOP work here from Mitchell and Munson, with a bukkake party of neon lights. And everything comes across as a bit of a heightened reality, not the real world, again, driving home that sort of comic book adaptation feel. Also, there's some prosthetics and makeup effects that are pretty damn good here, all for Dracula, of course. And yeah, they were good to look at. But of course, the MVP, it goes without saying, of this film is Nicolas Cage. The guy is awesome, he's obviously having fun, and chewing up the scenery like it's Hubba Bubba Bubblegum. Unfortunately, though, I have to say that he's not in the film a lot, which is a detriment to the movie. I keep banging on that this film feels more like a superhero movie, and it does, but more of an edgy R-rated one, sort of like Deadpool and Kick-Ass. Like I said, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the movie. Pretty much plays out exactly like the trailer does, and bounces between scenarios back and forth. And the third and final act, the climax, is more or less the ending to Kick-Ass, the first movie. I also feel like there's another movie buried in here somewhere. Like, with the trailer, you see the scenes exactly played out like they are in the trailer, but there's a little different emphasis on certain lines. Like, they've used different cuts for the trailer and the movie, even though they play out exactly the same. But yeah, everything felt very, very rushed, and it cut way too much. I feel like this might be a bit of studio meddling here. Like, they go, you need to get here quicker, you need to cut to that, we can't let people think too hard. Yeah, this film, Renfield, it's okay, it's not great, pretty run-of-the-mill. I honestly will probably never watch it again, to be perfectly honest with it. Nicolas Cage is great in it as Dracula, but yeah, it's far and few between with his scenes. It's very forgettable, paint by numbers, sort of edgy comic book movie adaptation. I really wanted to love this film. It had Nicolas Cage, and Nicholas Hoult is a great actor too. You know, comedy, horror, action, superhero-esque. Yeah, I thought, what could go wrong? But guys, write down below if you've seen Renfield, if you're excited to see it, and what is your favourite Nicolas Cage movie? But of course, if you've made it this far into the episode, please give me a thumbs up, because your love and support keeps me going, because I just love movies, and I assume you do as well. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe icon, because I give it episodes weekly, and I'll see you back here next week for the next review, and until then, stay spooky, kids.